Congratulations on a 6th season of The Blacklist. Amazing.
You've got Glenda Jackson here tonight.
How exciting is that, right? I mean, I'm very excited you're here, don't get me wrong.
No, but
Glenda Jackson.
But that's really...
Well, I'm glad.
Because I want to see... Is she going to talk about King Lear?
Yeah, she's playing King Lear.
I know. I can't wait to see it.
You will go see it, though?
Yeah, of course. I saw her in Three Tall Women.
Three Tall Women is amazing. Do you go to a lot of Broadway shows?
You know, I try. I mean, things are busy.
Yeah. You're so busy. Do you have time to even watch the news? Can you even do that?
I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
I don't watch the news at all. I read the news, and I read it every day.
It comes out every day.
Yeah. But I don't know. I read a lot of news, but I don't know. It goes in cycles for me. I'm having a terrible conundrum now of how to process the news today.
I don't think you're alone. A lot of...
And so, I sometimes, but I vacillate. Like in all things in my life, I have never figured out moderation in any way, shape, or form. So, and it's that way with the news as well, where it's either for me just consuming a ton of it and trying to figure out a way to, put it together and process it and get rid of it. And then that, or sometimes it just has to be a blackout. I'll skip the first section of the paper. I'll go right to, the later sections.
Do you feel better on those days?
In some ways. I mean, I think that certain things in the news we're seeing too much of it, especially, and sometimes I succumb to the 24-hour news cycle, which I'm very envious of you, because I was thinking about this tonight. I was actually talking to the producer backstage about the fact that you're forced to process it. I mean, you really...
Yes.
And in a way, it's tremendously digestive. I mean, you can consume it, you can metabolize it, and then you can it out.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And get rid of it.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm...
it out in front of an audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Fantastic. Anyway...
I want to talk about simpler times, because one of my favorite things about when you come on the show is you have wonderful stories about growing up. And I want to ask, you took a lot of family trips with your family, as you do with family trips. And because I'm excited about traveling with my kids. Your family went to Europe, and you would drive around in a VW, van?
Van, yeah.
How was that?
VW bus.
VW bus. That's so bohemian.
The Vanagon was the first VW van, and we didn't have a Vanagon. I wanted a Vanagon, so it just felt great. There was a pop-up thing.
Yeah.
And there was, anything that had a fridge in it seemed great. But, yes, the VW bus was our transport. My parents were teachers, and we didn't really have much money. They didn't earn very much money. But what we did have is every 7 years they got a sabbatical, and which means that you get a paid vacation, basically. And they went to Europe every year because we have cousins, Italian cousins. And so we'd go over to Europe. For the 2 sabbaticals when I was growing up that there were, we went over to Europe both times. And both times we picked up we got a van, a Volkswagen bus, and we drove around Europe, and then the Volkswagen bus became our car back in the States.
It was such a hit that you got one in the States.
No. That bus became our car in the United States both times.
You brought it back?
It was a trip to Europe and a car buying. We drove around.
You went to Europe to buy your car?
To drive around Europe.
Yeah, no, I understand that part. That's the normal part.
Come back with us.
That's not the normal part.
It would come back with us.
Gotcha.
And it was great because for me, this was in the days sort of before seatbelts. The 50s. I wasn't born when the seatbelts were started, but it was before. It was still when we were ignoring seatbelts.
Gotcha.
And
they had them, but nobody thought they mattered.
No one really used them. Yeah. They were something you get sort of like you're sitting on something, you want to get rid of it and so on. But I never experienced a seatbelt really because my domain was the way back. The way back? The way back. That's what I had.
Okay.
Which I think that's changed now.
Okay. The way back meaning just the way back of the van?
Yeah, it's where the suitcases and kids go.
Okay, gotcha.
And you're just like, and at that point, because you didn't have to be belted into anything, there weren't seats. the way back was just a space for luggage, and you would go back in there.
And so you would just sit
you'd
amongst
be
the
like-
luggage?
Yeah, I mean, I'd bring if you're in the way back, you take a pillow.
Yeah.
So you'd have a pillow back there and a bunch of suitcases and stuff. And, it's like a space a little bit smaller than this.
Yeah.
So, you're sort of like, you're...
Yeah.
And you got a pillow and
that
you're
doesn't
like
look that
this.
bad.
And so, I mean, it's fantastic when you're a kid.
Yeah.
So that couch is the same sort of ratio in
I feel like you're trying
to
to sell me a van right now.
I am. It's a great fantasy. I could have lived in the way back.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, that became the last VW bus that we drove around Europe and then came back and brought it back with us. That became my first car.
Really?
Yeah. And it was fantastic because I went to this school in Massachusetts. It was a big, huge, sort of college-sized boarding school. But I was a day student. I lived in the next town over. And I had a Volkswagen bus. I mean, it was crazy,
I mean, so you were like the towny kid with a bus.
With a bus.
I mean,
Yeah.
you must have been the coolest kid at that school.
Well,
Yeah. All right, well, we'll
worked
talk
out.
about that next time. James Spader, everybody.